So thank you so much for joining us, Tyra. And we're gonna, we're gonna jump right
Make
into it.
sure that she's on screen.
Yep. Oh, she's go. Oh, yeah. So again, we're working the delay. We're watching this actually on Zoom and not actually on Facebook. Well, you're watching it on Facebook. We're seeing the big screen on Zoom. So for transparency's sake, I have fully, emphatically, with time, money, passion, commitment, endorsed Tyra Boni. It doesn't mean I'm going to be any harder, any easier on her than I was on Michael Radkin, Ripken, Jarrett Soto, or anyone else. It's all about Tyra taking the opportunity and informing the public about who you are, what your team has accomplished, and even maybe in the future what you hope to accomplish as the clerk of courts once re-elected. But first, you could tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your family.
So I'm born and raised in Lehighton. I reside there with my husband Aldo for 30 years.
Yeah.
We have two beautiful daughters, two handsome son-in-laws, and three adorable grandchildren.
Yep.
My background in the workforce is I bring to the table at this point 17 years of business management. I have a fiscal financial background as well, through financial planning, and also vast amount of years of customer service.
Okay, great. So you said you had three grandchildren.
Yes.
Are they from one daughter, both, or how?
Our oldest has three.
Your oldest has three. Okay. And is that the one in Lehighton?
Yes.
Or in Lehighton?
Yeah.
Okay, so she obviously has the van.
Yes.
Okay, that's how I. Okay.
Yes, family vehicle.
Okay. No, that's great. So we're going right. And it's Tuesday, rough enough, right? No.
You wouldn't.
Right. I am home once in a while. But if it wasn't for Maggie and now Bev, it would be much harder, to be honest. So we're very grateful, Bev, if you're still online there. Thank you so much. You are a blessing. You truly are. And I try to, hopefully, I emphasize that every day. So, Tyra, your first run at office was in May of 2019. Where'd the encouragement or the enthusiasm or desire to come from to run for public office?
So when I was hired as, and interviewed, I should say, as first deputy of Registrar of Wills, I was asked at that time if I ever had the opportunity to run, would I run? I said absolutely I would run. I love the challenge and the opportunity to make a difference in the community, and that's why I ran.
Okay. And how long were you in that office before you made the decision to run?
I was in about a year and a half. I would say about a year and a half when the opportunity presented itself.
Okay. Maybe I don't know if you recall, and I probably have mentioned it recently, but our first interaction with Tyra was really right after the state went to the electronic filing system for guardianships, for both the reports of the person and of the estate. And the reports, we were trying to get the reports into a new system, and we had gone to all the training and everything, and there were still some challenges. Some of them were on this side, some of them were in the new program, and additionally, some of them were on the president judge, who again wasn't very embracing of technology. Again, and I see him every day. It's a learning curve for all of us. And I know he had struggled with that, but I see him more and more comfortable with it. He may not necessarily understand it, but I find Judge Nanovic embracing it and understanding that it's important to value it brings. And it does make those reports. And I'm always grateful for the assistance we got in that. So you ran for office in May. November, you won the general election. So let's go to 6 January 2020, because we're going to jump ahead. What was the state of the office on 6 January 2020? All right.
I walked into a mess, but I knew that,
Right.
I knew that there were still challenges. I knew there was a lot to do, a lot to accomplish, but I didn't know the enormous amount until I actually got in and started evaluating every facet of the office.
Okay.
In which I then sat down with my first deputy and created a game plan, oriented our goals, and achieved it one by one.
Okay. So if I understand, the former clerk of courts, elected clerk of courts, if I recall, he probably retired May of 2018?
It was actually around March.
March of
March,
2018.
April.
And so initially there was an interim, and that interim then subsequently was appointed by the governor based upon recommendations coming out of the county. So talk to me a little bit about the progress that was made from the elected officer retiring and those maybe 18 months. You know, the groundwork that may have been put in place to help you launch your team forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're speaking of Franny being in office.
Yeah.
Great credit to her.
Yeah.
She made, she tried to do her best with what she had
Yeah.
handed to her.
Yeah.
She did a great job with
Yeah.
trying to bring that backlog as much as she could get
Yeah.
accomplished in the short period of time that she had. So she did set out some of the groundwork for us to then build upon. So you always have to build that foundation first before you can actually start erecting a building or creating something.
That's right.
And that's exactly, I feel, is what has taken place. So I commend her on her efforts.
Mm-hmm. There's a question from the audience. How have your experiences in the courtroom helped you?
Well, having worked in the county for about 2 years prior to taking office, you do get to learn the system. You get to familiarize yourself with the other offices that are there and how they work hand in hand with each other in the day-to-day routine of everything.
So, and we're gonna dig into a little more detail on that. I want to start broad. The situation Tyra and her team came into could have been in any office anywhere in the world under almost any occupation. But I do know, and even for myself, prior to running for office and becoming deeply involved in county government and understanding the roles and responsibilities and authorities, you know, clerk of courts to me was almost nothing. I had no idea what you guys really did in the clerk of courts office. So can you first explain the purpose and the role of the clerk of courts to those who are tuning in?
Sure.
Yeah.
The clerk of courts office is 2 divisions, which really has not been disclosed over the past conversations. The clerk of courts has the criminal division, and we also have the collections division. So the criminal division is the filing office that maintains the original court record for any criminal files, summary appeal files, and miscellaneous files that come to our office. And the collection side is responsible for collecting on costs, fines, restitution that are owed to victims in the county.
So
or any municipality or wherever that restitution is appointed.
So the clerk of courts, you are actually responsible for 2 interconnected offices.
Yes, it's essentially a dual office.
It's a dual office. Okay, but not the pay of a dual office.
No.
Right, because there is the register of will or
Exactly.
from courts gets
It's not
additional
recognized that way,
compensation.
but it is the responsibilities of the 2 offices fall on myself as the clerk of courts.
Okay. So talk a little bit about, go a little bit deeper to the next level of the organization and the structure of these 2 interconnected offices that you're responsible for as a clerk of court.
So with the criminal side of the office,
Right.
they're responsible for processing all paperwork coming through the filings in the office.
Give me an example of paperwork that would come
Court orders, scheduling orders, rescheduling notices, entry of appearances, entry of withdrawals of appearance.
So what's a court order?
petitions,
What's a court order?
A court order is an order prepared by the judge
Right.
that would answer either a petition being filed, a motion being filed, an order of sentencing after one is going to a sentencing hearing.
Okay.
Those orders are processed by the individuals working in the office.
Okay.
They then need to service the individuals, the party participants, all their copies of those documents as well. They have to be then filed in an original paper file.
Right.
Because our court system still requires a hard copy paper, even though we have everything electronically as
Right.
well as that backup. So the clerk of court's office handles all of that paperwork. It's essentially a filing office for all those documents that come to the office.
Is that office, do they interact in the courtroom?
They do.
They do.
We have 4 working on a 5th in training
Right.
that actually have to sit in our court hearings and take notes on what the judges are sentencing, guilty pleas. They take the notes, prepare, wait for those documents to come back to our office to then process those documents.
For all criminal cases?
All criminal cases.
For all
And
criminal.
summary appeal cases. Miscellaneous cases we do not.
So what's a summary appeal case?
That's most of them are traffic violations.
Oh,
So
okay.
they come up, they can appeal a traffic violation at magistrate level, and they'll come
Okay.
into our office, file their appeal, has to be filed within so many days.
Okay, so then what is this other office, collections? Where do they play in and how do they connect with criminal?
Okay, so the collections office, after the criminal side assesses the case,
Yeah,
assessing it for costs owed to the court, fines, restitution owed to victims,
right,
that then is then passed over to the collection side, where the collection side takes that assessment, if you will, that
Right.
receipt of what is owed,
yeah,
and mails that off to the defendant whom owes the county those funds. And if we don't hear back, we automatically set them up on a payment plan so that the funds start coming into the county back.
okay. Well, if you're just joining us, I'm Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich with my co-host Maggie. We're joined this evening by Tyra Boni, Clerk of Courts, currently running for re-election on Tuesday. And I will emphatically state that I really want you to get out and vote on Tuesday. I know often the primaries are kind of, not a priority, but they are important. So
Yeah.
please try to find 5 minutes to head to the polls, fill out a ballot. And we're going to talk about those ballots in a little bit and how to fill them out properly. But again, I encourage you to get out and vote. Again, this is Carbon Matters live streaming. If you have a question for Tyra, you can just put it in the comments. Maggie is following those, and I'm going to let her take one right now, by matter of fact.
You send out delinquent letters.
We do. So with that, you must notify those individuals who are back on a payment, delinquent on a payment. You need to notify them with those delinquent letters. Absolutely, it's part of the process.
Do you have to pay all of it upfront, or is there like payment plan or something?
There's payment plans. Some people will pay depending on what they're paying on. They will pay it in full upfront. Most will opt to have a payment plan because some costs are quite expensive of what individuals owe after hearing a couple $1,000s.
Tyra, could you help maybe personalize what you do? You got any vignettes, anecdotes, stories of individuals who have been helped? And this is why I say that, because 2 years ago at the Carbon County Fair, 2019, August of 2019, Maggie went running around looking for what? Switchblade knives or something, I can't remember, right? And she said, I really want this for Christmas, this, I can't remember.
It was a lipstick knife.
It was a lipstick knife,
It looks
sorry.
like a lipstick,
Right.
but then you open it, it's a knife.
Yeah, so you really got to be careful at night when you're putting on lipstick, right? Right.
No, this is my actual lipstick, but it looks just like this, and then when you open it up, it's actually,
Yeah, but this gentleman, a perfect example of being a result of a lack of conscientious effort to manage and operate the office effectively. And again, he lost his vehicle and or his driver's license, couldn't drive and all that. So could you give an anecdote and personalize a little bit, an example of someone who might have come to the office for assistance and how you would help?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So on a day-to-day basis, our office does assist and help with
Yeah.
problem-solving office for many phone calls that come in.
Yeah.
People that are awaiting their driver's license to be returned to them, they haven't had it returned. There's a chain of events that have to happen.
Mhm.
Most of those cases are on an individualized basis. So if someone loses their license,
Mhm.
they assume that we can just restore that license. It's
Right.
completely with PennDOT.
Okay.
That's their restrictions. That's their requirement on what
Okay.
they have to do to get that back. But we go out of our way daily to help those individuals through those steps and processes in contacting PennDOT, finding out what may be outstanding.
Mhm.
But one thing many people that have a driving offense on the record and they want to restore their license, they don't realize that part of restoring that license is paying their costs and fines in full.
Okay.
And that's many things of what we find. We welcome those individuals into our office. We assist them the best that we can,
Right.
explain that process to them. And that happens on a day-to-day basis with questions and answers. But I just had a gentleman not so long ago.
Uh-huh.
I'll leave that as letter J. I'll
Yeah,
identify
okay.
him as.
Yeah.
Him and I went back and forth on the phone, getting through the channels of events that he had to finally restore his license.
Mhm.
Which wound up contacting PennDOT for him on
Right.
behalf of him, getting that restoration letter, and actually, in fact, having that license returned to him
Right.
after his costs and fines. were
Right. So interesting. So when you assumed the office, and I know when the appointed interim was also in there was that significant backlog of things that hadn't been filed and therefore seemingly the clock didn't start ticking, so for their time to get their privileges back, it's been that requirement.
And that's been a misunderstanding that I found in the office, that they feel that once they hand in their license, that clock ticks. Starts to tick. That's not the case. That clock is set by PennDOT. They're the ones who suspend it by a specific date, and they have the eligibility date set forth. So even if one returns or sends in their license early, they're sending it in thinking their license has been suspended all this time. In actuality, it wasn't. That's a problem we run into often with the backlog individuals.
So turning your license in too early.
Yes.
However, I'm assuming, and again, not a lawyer, that once there's an order for your license to be suspended, it's suspended effective that date by a court order?
No, it's through PennDOT.
Yeah, I understand, but.
Yeah, like the courts will say.
I did.
The courts will say your license is suspended.
On X date.
Yes.
Yes.
But that doesn't start ticking until PennDOT. PennDOT is the one who indicates when it's trying to be suspended and when that eligibility to return. Is
So you can turn it in when the court says you need to turn it in.
Right.
It
doesn't matter. And that's what I was trying to do.
And that's why we're trying to make sure that those individuals who have those driving offenses contact PennDOT. PennDOT is the one who needs to speak to on behalf of that license suspension.
Okay.
The court will suspend the license for X amount of time, but PennDOT is responsible for the start and finish date.
Okay, got it. Well, thank you so much. So if you're just joining us, this is Carbon Matters live streaming. I'm Chris Lukasevich, Carbon County Commissioner, joined by my co-host Maggie, and we're with the current Clerk of Courts of Carbon County, Tyra Boni. We're getting a little bit better educated on what the Clerk of Courts office does and how they interact with citizens on a regular basis, be it those who are working to regain their privileges, or it may be even victims who might be required or be on the recipient end of restitution. So how does restitution work? Can you give some examples of restitution?
Restitution is set by the court. They'll determine as to what is owed to a victim, whatever the case may be. So we're responsible for collecting that restitution and setting that person up on a payment plan to collect it.
Right.
But as far as it being set forth, it depends on the judge and what they indicate that amount to be.
Okay. So let's jump in a little bit about accomplishments of the current Clerk of Courts, yourself and your team. So over the past 16 months, I was looking at some of your literature, but more importantly, Tyra, I believe in about June of last year, you brought together the commissioners, some row officers, and the 3 judges, and I think some others from the courts, and you kind of gave a status update. And this is what we had on January 6th. This is where we are just a short time in, and then you clearly articulated in that same document, and this is the actual report, I went back through it today, then you articulated kind of a pathway and a road ahead. And then just a short time ago, you provided, quote unquote, an annual update to the Board of Commissioners. And this one was public. It was done
March 25th.
Right during a Board of Commissioners meeting. It was about a 10-minute presentation presented via Zoom, Facebook live streaming also. So talk about some of what you had and where you went, and tie it into the accomplishments that you've been articulating to the public or broadcasting to the public.
Sure. So in June, we had presented the findings that we had from January to that point, where we had escrow accounts that were sitting there unapplied. We had bank accounts that were not managed properly over the past 5 years. Managed properly, I mean they were not reconciled properly as far as outstanding checks. A sheetment was not done to the state for the past 5 years or so. We had a vast amount of documents that needed to be filed as well that were just sitting in boxes. Some of them need to be actually docketed prior to filing.
Okay, what is docketed?
Docketing means when we have a document come into the office and we have to go into the electronic system and enter that document and scan it in and attach it to the electronic file. So that needed to be done as well. There was a total of approximately 45,000 documents in relation to filing, bench warrant documents, and other documents that were there. We had fingerprint money that was not returned, that was still outstanding from the insurance claim from my predecessor.
Yeah.
There were, oh my gosh, there's an array, the list is extensive with what was there. And then from that point forward, I have to say the pandemic, again, did help us in attaining this because we were able to reallocate job duties through that down period. We didn't have the court.
Right, the court, really,
and dedicate a full day in addition to those extra hours to this task, this daunting task that was still there.
Right.
So with that being said, then we continued on the remainder of the year, tackling each one of these in a systematic format, attaining each goal as we achieved it.
Right. So talk to us about some of the goals or the achievement, the end result of the goal.
The one of the outstanding escrow was completely applied to, not the unapplied escrow is what it was applied to all those outstanding payment plans that we were now then able to set up. So when one was making a prepayment, it was going into unapplied escrow because there was no cost sheet. There was no receipt, if you will, or a total for a receipt of what they owed to the county. All of that was applied. We had then refunded individuals' monies that they were waiting on that was not refunded in a very long time, obviously through all this backlog.
Right.
We managed to file all of those documents by the end of the year. We managed to document and docket all those documents that were outstanding. We returned the fingerprint money, with the exception of 5,000, which was then returned to the controller's office to be refunded back to the insurance company.
Okay.
We set all the goals in place. We attained each goal, and we are very proud of the team. The team worked extremely hard and very effective, efficiently, and they accomplished a lot. I could have never done it alone. It's not a one-man team.
Right.
It is a team of 9 employees plus myself.
Let me interject. I think there's a question. Yeah, go ahead.
It says, how did Tyra save the county 96,000? No one explains the savings.
Oh, so that is a budget expense savings. Actually, I'm very conservative with the way the monies are allocated, and we took a very conservative approach with that budget expense that we had. The in addition to the one position that was abolished by part of the executive board, was part of the savings because that individual, the director of my collections, had gone out on leave, and after a certain point in time, some of that was that savings of monies that weren't being paid in salary. The others were budget expenses that we were able to scale back. A big expense was our postage. Just by reallocating how we were going to send out our mailings to individuals. We consolidated our postage, our mailings, I should say, to save a significant amount of postage as well.
So we're talking $96,000 a year for all intent and purposes. So I saw largest disbursements by office in 9 years, $2.2 million. So disbursements are money going from who to whom?
So the disbursement is monies that are in our account in the collections department, dispersed to county offices, taxpayers, victims, municipalities, anyone who's owed money from a defendant, a case that we have in our system. That money is dispersed after it's paid into our office. We have to then disperse, in other words, pay it out. And that was the highest based on everything that we had accomplished.
So then let's talk, then we have another number. Well, let me ask you this, where would one verify this number? If I said, well, you know what, thanks, Tyra, but I'd like to see this for myself. Is there somewhere where I could go and see this data?
Absolutely. Those numbers are all facts based on a public website, which we integrate. It's in our system, AOPC. AOPC is a public website that people can go to and look at our stats. The facts that I'm presenting are all there in black and white.
So what does AOPC stand for?
Administrative Office of Pennsylvania Courts. They are responsible for keeping track of the 67 counties that we have. They're all integrated together into that website that has all that data there. And that's why I pulled this out at the end of the year.
Perfect. So let me ask you, you talked about dockets. If I was interested in a particular criminal court case, could I go to AOPC website and pull that up some? Or
there's a possibility that you can. You're going to have to dig a little deeper into each county. Wired that way. And that county will be able to tell you whether or not they have a docket on someone, whether or not there's a case on this individual and that individual, what you're looking for specifically.
So how about a restitution number? highest in 5 years, if I recall correctly. Is that?
The restitution is part of the disbursement.
Disbursement.
It's all collected.
It's all collected and goes out. But
All
again,
fines and restitution, that was dispersed.
right, but my understanding is we're at the highest point in 5 years
That's
for,
correct.
for getting restitutions also.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes.
right. So,
That is based on our payments that we took in of the 1.83 million.
million, one
That
point
we
eight
took
three.
in through payment plans, through allocating those payment plans. In the beginning, we had about, it was over 1,000 payment plans that were not even set up. So they were just sitting there not being collected on, which are now actively being collected on.
Okay, great. So again, if you're just joining us, we have a few more minutes here with Tyra Boni, the current clerk of courts, up for re-election. This is Carbon Matters live streaming, Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. I'm joined, as always, by my either virtually or in presence. Once in a while, she has other priorities, which I can't understand, but nonetheless, she does have a life. This is my wife, Maggie, and we're joined again by Tyra Boni, clerk of courts. If you have a question, you can go ahead and put it in the Facebook chat. We'll get Tyra to answer it in the few minutes that we have left. Subsequently, after tonight's a live streaming, of course, Tyra will also have access to this live streaming event. She can go back through there and answer maybe any unanswered questions. As I always do, we'll go back and look for any other questions that may be back there.
I just feel great that thinking that if there was a suit and we were like the victims or whatever, that I feel like we would get our restitution. That would,
Right.
I mean, that feels good. I mean, because I mean, before it didn't seem like that was happening.
Yeah.
That's, I mean,
Yeah.
adding insult on injury, that these people that were already victims and then they had to wait forever for.
And that's the outstanding funds that are there is 25 million owed to the county. 6.5 of that is delinquent. That isn't actively being paid on, pursued, and that's where we had been contracted with AOPC, with an outside collection agency to go after that 6.5 million that is delinquent. We just sent off our first million to that outside collection agency to try to intervene and it's no loss to the county.
Right,
They
yeah.
have their additional fees.
Right,
That
yeah,
will
sure.
get full payment and have that go on. So
Okay.
we collect on that and then
Yeah.
we'll send off our next batch.
So on that, I'm assuming, this isn't like dishwasher done. All right, this is dishwasher done. All right. So,
And that has not been done in the past with Carbon
Okay.
County. There was never an outside collection
Yeah.
agency that you were
Yeah.
able to work with
Yeah.
in trying to get that delinquent.
and the collection agency has to collect the full amount.
Yes.
Because there's an order
Yes. Yes.
that says you owe $842. It's not a negotiation where they can say, well, we'll settle for 600.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Are you familiar with this, Tyra? Is this anything, this unclaimed property?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, right. So I saw this in the newspaper.
So that's part of our treatment process.
Okay.
So that has not been done in years with our
Okay.
offices, both the bail treatment
Okay.
and the collections treatment. So
Okay, explain that word. So that's a word that most people are probably not familiar with.
Achievement is when you take the funds that have not been reconciled with our account.
Okay.
They're stagnant, the checks have not been cashed.
Right,
We have to sheet them, we have to send that money
Right.
to this unclaimed funds property.
right, yeah,
And that agency, if you will, then posts it on their website,
All right.
the Treasury,
right.
where people can go in and log in and see if they have any monies that were owed them. Maybe they got a check and maybe they forgot they had a check. And then they can go on there and see if there's any money owed to them.
Right, 'cause I looked-
18,000 that we just sent.
Wow. So I looked at 18229, it says Lukasevich, Chris L. So that means I have money there.
If your name is listed there,
Yeah.
that's what that page is stating
Yeah.
under that. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah. It's not really there. I went through everyone's day here to see. All right. So again, if you're just joining us, we do have a few more minutes with Tyra Boni, clerk of courts. You have a question posted on Facebook? Yeah, man.
There's a great question by Taylor.
Sorry, Mom.
What happens when a victim is owed restitution, but the defendant passes away before it is all paid back? Does the victim ever get paid what they are due?
Unfortunately, we do not.
Uh-huh.
If the victim is deceased, that case is then, for lack of better words, at this point, we're trying to change this, exonerated. So you do a court order with the judge.
Yeah.
The judge signs off that this person, we have to do our legwork. We have to look in the obituaries. We have to make sure there's no estate open in our county. We have to then go through and have that order prepared by the judge. He verifies all the information. We do wait at least 3 months to see if an estate has been open. And the judges are the ones, Judge Natter, the present judge, is the ones to determine whether or not he's going to sign off on that order to exonerate that individual of paying the amount to.
Okay, so
We just did 250 of those.
uh-huh.
In the past year, that has been stagnant over the years, and nothing was done with those cases.
So it doesn't automatically go against the estate?
If there is an estate.
If there is an
then
estate,
if
it
there's
will.
an estate, we file a notice of claim.
Got it.
for
Yeah,
our county
that's what I mean,
to pay
right.
it, But most of these individuals,
No,
unfortunately,
they have not.
they don't have it.
They
And it's
have nothing.
unfortunate for those victims that are waiting.
Right, that are
Okay.
waiting.
Absolutely.
So Tyra, what can we expect in 2022 or the rest of 2021 from the Clerk of Court's office? What are the initiatives, the goals, the objectives that are set to kind of continue to advance to the next level,
Sure.
the office?
Right now, our focus is on collecting on that outstanding 25 million, putting that plan in action, try to recoup as much as we can, and expedite those payments off to individuals. The other thing that we're putting in place is through e-communications, which is through our CPCMS, which is our case management system that we
Okay.
use. It's to notify those individuals, you are delinquent on a payment, you have a hearing coming up.
Okay.
Our court admin, administration office, and probation are using a similar software now. CPCMS is integrated e-communications, and we're going to implement that shortly in helping to remind those individuals of what they have up and coming, or what they may have fallen back on.
Okay. So I have to interrupt. You mentioned quite a few different offices. It seems like you interact with a lot of different
Daily.
offices.
Daily,
Yeah.
we do.
For example, just if you could re-emphasize them for
Court
the public.
administration,
Yeah, okay.
they basically are always, they schedule the orders,
Okay.
we schedule hearing notices,
Okay.
and they bring them down and file them in our office.
Okay.
District Attorney's Office will bring paperwork over on a day-to-day basis,
Okay.
whether it's a stipulation, whether it's a continuance, whatever that may be,
Right.
they file to our office.
Okay.
Adult probation, same thing. They have their documents that they file within our office as well.
Okay.
And also for sanitary, we file judgments on a daily basis down there on individuals that have an outstanding balance due. We have to file a judgment in that office.
Okay. So we have the election coming up. Here's an actual official ballot. Well, look at that, a Sharpie, and it runs through the other side. Don't worry, Carbon County residents, so we know that it won't be a problem because the dots don't align. Or so the election board and election officials tell us.
Yeah.
You know what? That isn't the official Sharpie I used on this one. And there are 3 Constitution amendment questions on the back of the ballot, plus a 4th one to do with allowing fire departments with paid salaried individuals participated in a funding to accumulate debt. But this is the official Republican ballot. You can see right there, kind of dead center first, right? Opponent, right there below opponent, quote unquote opponent. The second slot is Tyra Boni, Clerk of Courts. All you got to do is take your Sharpie that's provided at the polls, just fill in that little dot right there, right? Right there, Tyra Boni, right? From Franklin Township, right? That's the Republican ballot. It's coming back through the Packard and Dip, and on the LED digital billboard, there's a big sign. It might have a donkey or 2 on it, and it said, "Writing Tyra Boni."
Yes.
So what's that about?
Well, there is no opponent running on the opposite side
Okay.
of the Republican ticket.
Okay,
So make your vote count now. You don't need to wait until November.
Right.
If I have any supporters that would like to write me in on the Democratic ticket, they're welcome to do so.
okay,
And that vote will count now, and they don't need to wait until November to vote for me.
okay. No,
They can
that's
support me
great.
now, and
They-
and I do feel that it's a great opportunity to
Oh.
make it count.
So what Tyra was explaining for those Democrats who unfortunately don't have a candidate this year for this particular office, all you need to do is go to Clerk of Office, and you'll see it clearly says, for your term, vote for one. All you have to do is, at the oval, you fill that in completely, and then you print the name, TYRA BONI. And again, that's how you cast your ballot your vote and make it count today in lieu of waiting till November and make the difference then. So work towards making the difference today. Again, so you have two ways to vote for Tyra Boni. If you're a Republican, go to the Republican ballot, front and center, second one down. If you're a Democrat, right, you can go ahead and do the write-in. Right there it is, fill in the oval, print in, although it's called a write-in, the instructions have now changed and say print. Don't know, I was looking at 2012 ballots and it was still saying write-in, but now it says print, and you'll see that up there. And again, if you have any questions, the instructions are right there. You just got to take the time to read it. So we're going to finish up here maybe literally in a minute. Last call for questions on Facebook.
There was one, it was not about the process. It was the clerk of court's office has to go into the courtroom when the defendants are in front of the judge. What is the process of the clerk's office at that time?
So the clerks that are sitting in there, the deputy clerks that are trained, they will take notes based on what the judge is sentencing to that individual or a guilty plea. They will take those and prepare those orders for the judge to sign. We then turn that over to the judge. They review that process. Once we get that order back in our hands to file in our office, actually physically time stamp that document.
Right.
We put in place a 24 to 48 hour turnaround.
Okay.
So our office cannot do anything with any of the documents until the judges review what we have transcribed if you will, for them. Okay. They sign it off on that everything's correct. The clerks did their job, due diligence, everything's correct. Comes back to time stamp it for 24 to 48 hours. We then process that document by entering into the system and servicing those individuals that require a copy of that.
Okay, perfect. So this is what, do you have one more?
Yeah,
or go ahead.
Real quick, it says, what's the responsibility of the clerk of court's office during jury selection, jury duty trials?
So we have, right now, my first deputy has been handling all the jury trials. So they will go in, they'll swear in the jurors, and they will actually go in and out intermittently as the judge requires by actually renumbering the sequence of the jurors for them to actually pick their jury panels. And at that point, that's our involvement in the jury selection.
For jury duty. Yes, for the first time in my entire life.
She's so excited.
I'm so excited.
Canceled the vacation,
the
Paris, everything. Yeah.
No, it's because we were military for so many years, we never lived anywhere long enough to be able to get called up for jury duty. And I would hear my friends, complaining about it, and I'm like, man, I want to be on the jury. Yeah, so I don't know if I'll be on the jury, but I'm gonna go to the jury selection and hopefully
learn something. The process and how it works.
Yeah.
So this
my civic duty.
I need you to do something for me, and then we're gonna give Tyra the final opportunity, the last word to recognize the team that has been working with her the last 16 months and any last appeal she might have. But first, I'm going to ask you to reach over and grab my can of C4. All right. So, okay. So, folks want to know, where do I get my passion? Where do I get my energy? Well, I drink C4 Energy. That's where I get superhuman performance. And then you say, but Chris, why do you smell so good? Well, I think everyone knows the only soap I use in this family is Duke Cannon, right? And this is mega size soap. And I'm going to tell you, if you're a man, you should be using Duke Cannon soap. So again, this is a shameless plug for products. Probably the only plug that's missing is really my can of Pepsi. I actually drank that yesterday.
On Thursdays, he puts on the bourbon after show.
I do, for the commissioners meeting, for game time and stuff like that. All right, so again, if you're out there at Turkey Hill or something, C4 Energy drink. Or if you need new soap, consider Duke Cannon soap. And I need to thank Mary Ann Llewellyn for introducing me to Duke Cannon soap. I live by it. I was a lifetime Ivory user up until about 2 years ago, right? And it's the perfect complement to C4 Duke Cannon soap. So Tyra, the last minute, it's all yours.
Well, I'd like to thank you both again for the opportunity to share with you. This is fun and educating, and I really enjoyed myself. I'd like to thank my staff again. There's no way that this would have been accomplished without their hard work and dedication. They are a phenomenal team. We get along extremely well. Everyone has each other's back through thick and thin, in the office, and I'm really grateful to have them.
Yep.
It's been an honor and a privilege to serve as I have thus far in the clerk of court's office, and I really hope to have the opportunity to continue serving the public and have their support and their vote, your support and your vote. I humbly ask for it on May 18th.
All right. Well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.